Howdy, y'all. Today we're going to look at the Carnosaur's Warscroll. What kind of strategy we can put into it, what kind of synergies we can get out of it, and how can we make the Carnosaur the best unit we can. So that's what we're going to look at a little today. Little strategy on the Carnosaur. So let's dive right in here. We've got the Warscroll here. Now, if you're like me, and you have a couple Carnosaurs, and the book was getting updated, you really wanted this thing to come out to be a beast. And you saw the Warscroll card, and we were all kind of a little disappointed. We wanted more out of this thing. Looking at this Warscroll, it's okay. It's not bad, but it's kind of in the same spot it was before. You got a few buffs here and there, but it wasn't as good as we were hoping. I was looking for something like I want this to be the Terrorgeist of Seraphon. People are afraid of these Carnosaurs. When we first saw this Warscroll, it wasn't really that. But I think there's some secret tech here that we can plow into these Carnosaurs to make them pretty good, to make their damage output a lot higher, and to make them pretty interesting little units here. So we're just going to talk kind of about both Carnosaurs. They're very close. The Old Blood and the Scarvet are about 40 points difference. The Old Blood is 250. The Scarvet's 210. But what I'm really going to be focusing on is the Carnosaur, their mounts. What can we do to their mounts? Because that's where a lot of the damage comes from. I think the Old Blood is worth the points for his weapon, because his weapon is a flat 3 damage, which is pretty awesome for that Sunstone Spear, and it gets a couple of buffs that we can add onto it. So I really like the Old Blood for the extra 40 points. If you're just wanting to add a monster to add some table presence, then the Scarvet is a great one too. We're going to look at here in a little bit that I think paired together they make the best combo. But first off, let's look at this Warscroll here. We've got a missile weapon. That is, it's D6 attacks, so never really count on this thing doing anything. It does have some rend, but more likely than not, you'll get maybe 1 damage out of it. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage. His Sunstone Spear, we got 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, 3 damage. So it's coming in pretty hefty, and it's got a consistent hit there, and it will take some buffs. But he also has a ability down here in his abilities that you can add, or on the unmodified roll of a 6 for that weapon, it's going to score 2 hits. So it can explode, it can do a few extra hits, especially once we start adding attacks to it. Once we start adding numbers to that, and numbers to the 2 hit, then it'll get even better. Clawed forelimbs, we got 2 attacks. It hits on a bracketed 3 up, no rend, and 2 damage. So this one is the worst attack he's got, but it will take some buffs. So, any kind of attack you can get that has multi-damage to it will take it. But not having Rend there kind of hurts. But it's another attack that we're going to get to pump up a little bit, so we'll take it. Massive Jaws. Now, here's the one that's a lot of fun. If this guy hasn't taken any wounds yet, this thing is doing 5 damage, which is nice. So you got 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 rend, 5 damage. That 4 to hit really hurts, but there's ways to mitigate that. Just based on his Warscroll, you can add 1 to that if you're attacking models that have less than 7 or less wounds. So that's going to be a lot. You're going to want to target this Carnosaur at elite units, battle line units, or support units. You're probably not going to want to send a Carnosaur in to deal with some heavy monster because he's not going to get that bonus. But like I said, there's other ways to get that number down other than just hitting 7 wound models or less. So that's kind of his outlook on his Warscroll. His command ability is nice. It adds 1 to your hit rolls. And so you're going to be using this a lot on himself if he's the one getting in combat. It does happen in the combat phase. So you'll be popping that command ability to get +1 to hit on all 3 of those melee profiles we were talking about. And so that brings him down to a 2 up, 3 up, 2 up, 3 up, and then a 3 up, 3 up. And if you're going into models of 7 wounds or less, then everything he's got is going to be hitting on 2s and 3s. So that's pretty good once you see that. So for 1 command point, you've all of a sudden got all his stuff down to 2s and 3s. So keep a command point in your pocket for that. That's quite useful. Well, let's see what his damage does just by itself. We've run some stat hammer stuff here and see what kind of damage the Carnosaur does. So here's his average damage table simulation. And this is without any buffs. This is just straight Warscroll. It's not that good. So against the 4-up, he's doing 8 damage. Against the 3-up, 6. So you're not going to be taking out much. You might take out some battle line if they happen to be 5-up. You might take out a few battle line models. But this guy is not going to last very long. So you saw on his thing, he has a 4-up, which is fairly low for a big giant monster. He does have 12 wounds, but he'll fold pretty fast if you give him some rend against him. So far it's not impressive. Only doing 8 damage against a 4-up isn't all that good. But like I said, there's ways to get around it. So I talked quickly about his command ability. So you'll always want to put that on him. So just factor that in. I'm going to use 1 command point per turn for the Carnosaur if he's in combat. And then if he's going into 7 wound models or less, let's run those numbers, see what they happen. So using a command point and you're attacking 7 wounds or less on models, all right, it's bumped up a little bit more. Now it's 11. So we've added 3 damage to that 4-up save. So it's getting a little bit better. But still, this big giant monster, surely it can do more, right? So let's look for a minute at some of the things in the army that can buff that Carnosaur. I've kind of ranked them into 2 tiers, and the ones that are below that I didn't even list because it's not worth it. In tier 1, I think the Scarvet. Now this includes either the one on the Carnosaur or the one on the cold one. So big point difference between there. It's about 100 points different. So if you're scrounging for points, you can always go for the cheaper one. But his command ability, hits of 6 explode into an extra hit. Oh, so this is getting nice. Already we have the weapon, the Celestite weapon for the Carnosaur, for the Old Blood, exploding on 6s. So we'll get an extra one here. And then the jaws will explode on 6s too. So that really helps right there. Especially the more hits you get, the more chances at 6s you'll have. But really, you want those jaw attacks to explode. Those are the ones that you want to explode, so you can get an extra 5 damage. The Skink Starseer. Now this is an interesting one. So his staff, you don't have to roll for it. You just point his staff at some unit that's wholly within 12, and they can charge 3d6. So that's interesting for a Carnosaur because in factions like Dracos Tale, if you're dropping in the Skink Starseer and the Carnosaur, they'll be right there within 12. And now you're 9 away with your Carnosaur, you can charge 3d6. So it has some interesting play there. But given that Carnosaur, a 3d6 charge is pretty nice. One of the problems is if you're charging your Carnosaur up, you're probably not going to have that Skink Starseer within 12. So if you've shot that Carnosaur across the board, he might be out of range of that. So be cognizant if you're planning a big long charge with that Carnosaur, keep the Skink Starseer within 12 inches. His spell is also really nice. His spell has a casting value of 7, range of 18, and it gives a +1 to save, or a -1 to save for the enemy. Now, I think this has some very good usability, because if you're playing defensively, pop that onto your Carnosaur, now he's at a 3-up. Now he's got a respectable save. If you're going for all-out damage, it basically has the same effect of +1 to rend all the Carnosaur's weapon. You're minusing 1 to the save for the enemy. So that's pretty big. So all of a sudden those jaws are hitting on -2, which that's what you would expect out of the jaws of a giant Carnosaur. So I think this Starseer has some play. He's a little bit more expensive than your typical little small skink hero, but he's quite useful in that role. He'll also give you extra command points, which you always want extra command points for a Carnosaur-based army. Also, the Slon and the Croak, their command ability is +1 to save versus shooting, and they can fly. So if you had lots of command points, which if you have a Slon or Croak, you're probably going to, you can spend a command point on the Carnosaur, and now he's got +1 to save versus shooting. So if, say, both of these went off, the Carnosaur, if you're playing defensively or something, would be at a 2-up versus shooting, 3-up versus melee. but also could fly. Like, a flying dinosaur, that's pretty awesome. But typically, you're always going to see a Slaughter or a Croak in your army regardless because you need those command points. I like Croak in mine. He's gonna be in just about every Seraphon list I can come up with, just because he has a chance to get those extra 3 command points in your army, which is quite valuable. My tier 2, I put the Sunblood. He has an awesome ability, +1 to wound rolls versus enemies, but it's within 12 inches. So this guy would have to be keeping up with your Carnosaur, which he's not going to do because he's on foot and your Carnosaur is on a big giant dinosaur. Or your Carnosaur is a big giant dinosaur. So that's why I push him down to tier 2. I think he's a little bit better when he's playing defensively with a block of Source Warriors and something's coming in and you're counter punching and now they're within 12. I think that's a little bit better. The Astrolith, it does give a 6-up Feel No Pain, wholly within 12, which is good. Gives the Carnosaur a little bit more survivability, but you're probably never going to be within 12 inches of this Astrolith other than your very first turn. So Astrolith is good for a lot of other things. His buff is okay for the Carnosaur if you're playing defensive. A Skink Star Priest, a staff. He has a staff thing that he can just point at people, and wholly within 12. 6s to wound, do a mortal in addition to the normal damage. So this one's good, but you're not just going to have a ton of wound rolls just because of how elite his attacks are. You're not going to have a ton that hit on 6s. It's nice if you've got a Skink Star Priest and you got nothing else to point him at a Carnosaur if the Carnosaur's getting into combat, and you'll probably eke out a couple mortals. My last one for tier 2 is Engine of the Gods. He does have the ability to heal Seraphon that are within 12 inches of him. It's wholly within, unfortunately. You do have to roll for it, so it may not always happen. But if your Carnosaur gets hit turn 1, maybe, and you're stuck in deployment, that engine can offer some heals. If you're sending that engine up to attack in combat with maybe a pair of Carnosaurs, that actually makes a pretty good attack force because that engine does quite a bit of damage on its own, but it can also heal those other 2 Carnosaurs that are with you. So I kind of like that play. I haven't played with it on the table yet, but in my mind, it seems like it'd be pretty good. Healing your dinosaurs up D3 is not too shabby. So let's look at a couple things here. If we use his own command ability and the Scarvets, which I think the Scarvet is almost an auto-include every time for me, the attack of 7 wound or less models, we're up in the wound damage here a little bit. So our average damage table goes up. We're looking at that 4-up save there for our average, and we've upped another 2 wounds. So not too bad. We're getting a little bit better, but we're still not there yet. Our command traits. I'm not crazy about these command traits. I really wish we had gotten some mount traits for these guys. For the Carnosaurs, maybe even for the Stegodons. Mount traits would have been really nice. That could have really tipped us over the edge on these Carnosaurs. But we didn't, so we got command traits. These command traits are okay. These first 2, you're rerolling hit rolls of 1. Well, I can get that using a command point. Thickly Scaled Hide, reroll save rolls of 1. Again, I can get that with a command point. So I don't need to take either one of those. If it really comes down to it, I mean, they're nice, but you're going to be pretty flush with command points if you build this list right. So I don't know. I think I would just rather spend a command point if I feel like I really need to really make sure and get something killed or to save the character in combat. The third one isn't bad. If this journal is part of your army and on the battlefield at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice on a 4-up, you receive 1 extra command point. So here's, if you've got no other command trait to take, this is a good one because you're going to be using so many command points in this army with Carnosaurs that's not a bad one to use. Let's look at his relics here, the artifacts. The first one I think is really the only one I would ever pick for them. Blade of Realities. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, improve the ring characteristics of that weapon by 1. In addition, add 1 to the damage inflicted by each one. So I think that is probably pretty nice if you're taking this old blood, because you've got that 3-up, -1 rend, 3 damage. So if all of a sudden that's a -2 rend and 4 damage, that's pretty good. Plus there's ways to pump that attack number up. And so all of a sudden his Sunstone Spear is almost as powerful as those jaws. So I do like that artifact. The other ones, no, I don't think I'll ever take it. So this one, on the second one, number 2, you have a chance to do an extra mortal. Nope. On 3, you can add one of the attack characteristics of just the hero's weapon. If you got this weird thing where if the allocated number of wounds is greater than or equal to half of your wounds. So if you've taken 6 wounds, then you get to use this. No. This thing's going to die. If you've taken 6 wounds, he's already in trouble. Wanda's attacks, which are already bracketed, aren't going to help you. So I'm going to take something else, probably a different artifact, and that'll come down to the factions that we take too. So for the first one, I'm going to go through the couple factions here, and we'll try to hit some of these quickly, but see if a Carnosaur has a place in it. In Dracos Tale, this faction, I don't think I'm ever going to play this faction. I think this is the weakest faction of them all, but it does have an interesting artifact. If for some reason you end up in this, it'd be kind of fun to put this artifact on. And the artifact you see, the God Beast Pendant, it's basically the Phoenix, the Frostheart, or not the Flame Spire Phoenix's ability. When they die on a 4-up, they come back with all their wounds restored. Everything allocated is gone. That's pretty awesome. Now, it only works half the time, so, whatever. But if in Dracos Tale, if you're dropping a Carnosaur in and you know he's going to get killed early on in the game, maybe pop this and see what happens. See if, that time that you need it, he all of a sudden reappears with all of his wounds. That's pretty cool. Overall, not the strongest option. Let's look at Fangs of Sotek. Fangs of Sotek isn't bad. You're missing out on a lot of the abilities if you take a Carnosaur in here, so I don't think I will ever take it. It does have an ability in here that gets you a command trait that gets you an extra command point, and you have to put it on a Saurus General. So if you want a Saurus General in your Fangs of Sotek, a Carnosaur isn't a bad option. Plus, you'll be getting on a 3-up, you get an extra command point. So this is just straight up better than the other command trait for the Carnosaur. So you definitely take this one. It's a better way to get a command point, especially if you need a Saurus in that army. The artifact, I might not. I might want to put this one on my Carnosaur as well. If you can wound another character with that weapon, and then you roll up on a 5-up, they're just straight up slain. So I would probably put this on maybe a Scarvet who has 6 attacks, but there's no rend on that one. So I still just go on that Sunstone Spear. If you get one of these through, do some damage to a big hero, then you have a 30% chance to just slay him outright. That's pretty cool. The next one, Codal's Claw. This is where the Carnosaur really starts to shine. So you get +1 to your hit rolls for all the Source units if you make a charge in the same turn. Or you can use a command ability just to do the same thing. So you're adding +1 to your charge. You can roll a dice each time a general uses a command ability, and on a 4-up you get it back. So this is like Aether Quartz Brooch, just better. If you could use a command, or if you have a battalion like Sunclaw, which I kind of like for the Carnosaur, then you could take another artifact. Maybe take Aether Quartz Brooch. So your command trait on a 4-up gives you a command point back, and then your artifact on a 5-up gives you a command point back. You'll literally be swimming in command points. It would be amazing. The artifact isn't bad. It does another exploding item to where if you get hit rolls of 6, it'll do an extra 2 mortal wounds in addition to any damage. So that's kind of nice. It's not really nice that it happens on the hit and that it does 2 mortals. So that's pretty good. I would take Sunclaw in Codal's Claw just so I can fit my Old Blood on Carnosaur into this battalion. It does fit in the battalion because Source Old Blood is the large print word on the Warscroll, and on Carnosaur is lowercase. So that will fit in the battalion. And this improves the rend of the characteristics of the Jaws weapon by 1 in the battalion. So this is pretty awesome. So now the Jaws have a -2 rend, which is where it should always be. So here in this battalion, you're all of a sudden getting that jaw attack that you really want. So let's see what kind of damage it does. Here we got, in Coalesced, for Codal's Claw, you get +1 to your jaw attacks. You're going to spend your Old Blood command ability, +1 to hit. Scarvet command ability, 6 is Explode. attacking jaw, you're going to attack something with less than 7 or less models or wounds, because that's what the Carnosaur is designed for. So you get another +1 to hit. You get a +1 to hit from your claw charge from Kotal's Claw, and then +1 to rend from the Sunclaw Battalion. So with this loadout, you don't even have to spend your Old Blood command ability because you're already at 2s to hit on everything. But if you're coming up against something that hits that has like -1 to hit, then go ahead and spend that command ability so you can get that. So look, now all of a sudden our power projection here, our average damage table, we're up to 18. So this is using 2 command points. So for the Old Blood and the Scarvet, you don't even need the Old Blood. As long as you charged, you're fine. If you didn't charge, just use a command point and get the +1. So this is good. Only 1 command point spent, and we're already up to 18. So I think that's a good loadout there in Kotal's Claw. But wait, it gets better. You might not think of the Thunder Lizard would be so good for the Carnosaur. I mean, maybe you would because it's all about thunderous lizards. But a lot of their buffs go towards the Stegodons and the Engine of the Gods and the Basilodon. But here we get an extra 2 wounds, so all of a sudden the Carnosaur's at 14 wounds, which is a lot more impressive. And this command trait is pretty awesome. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of the weapons used by the General's mount. The artifact, just forget about that. Who cares about the artifact? The artifact's terrible. You'll throw that on something else or throw it on him if you want an extra shooting attack. But that +1 to your mount attacks is pretty awesome. So that's +1 to the attacks for those jaws, which are 5 damage. I'm also going to throw him in the Sunclaw Temple Host for this one as well, so he gets an extra +1 to rend for that. So let's see what kind of damage we're getting here. So coalesced, same kind of thing as before, +1. Old Blood command ability, +1. Scarvet, exploding. We're attacking somebody up that's less than 7 wounds. Prime Warbeast, +1 to mount attacks. Sunclaw Battalion, +1 to rend. And of course, we're popping the Sacred Astrum for the +1 attacks as well, which I included in the previous ones, but forgot to put it in the chart. So now you've got +2 to all of their mount attacks, plus another one for the jaws from the coalesced. So now all of a sudden you're having quite a few attacks. If we look back at his Warscroll, where we had 3 attacks for his son's spear, we've added to that one. Clawed forelimbs, we've added 2 to that one. And massive jaws, we've added 3 to that one. So all of a sudden, we're getting a lot of attacks. And that works out to almost 30 damage for a 4-up save. That's awesome. In this loadout here, we're also doing the -1 to damage for stuff that comes into him. Not mortals, unfortunately. Thanks, FAQ. But he's got 14 wounds. He's -1 to damage that's coming into him. And now all of a sudden he's outputting almost 30 damage to a 4-up save. This will take out just about anything. If you're going up against something that has a 3-up save, generally they don't have more than 21 wounds. If you're going up against something with a 2-up save, there's not much of that out there. But even if it does, it usually doesn't have 15 wounds. And if it does, you can just put something else onto it too. But 30 damage at a 4-up save is pretty awesome. Let's look at this. Here's where we started. We started at 8 damage for the Carnosaur, just based on its Warscroll. And with a little bit of work, we're getting it up to 30. And if you notice this right here, this isn't a ton of command points. This is 2 command points that we've added onto them. And one of them, we don't even have to spend one of them if we don't need to. If we're attacking 7 or less wound models, don't even use Old Blood's ability. You'll be fine getting that extra +1 on his jaws. But this would help against if you're attacking a -1 to hit. Pop that command point, and don't worry about it. Everything will still be hitting on 2s. So it's not a lot of work. You've allocated a few buffs here and there for it, but all of a sudden you have a terrifying monster that's only 250 points that's doing 30 damage. I do like to pair this together with the Scarvet and just about every list that I've tried. And so put them together, you have, basically a monster that's 460 points. That's 250 and 210. And they're going to be doing 50 damage together. If you pop both their command points on both of them, it's about 50. Sometimes you can squeeze out about 55 out of both of them. With very minimal work. So you're doing a pretty awesome job. If you could tell me I had a monster that cost 460 points and was going to do over 50 damage, I'll take that. I'll take that. So I think Carnosaurs can be usable. You have some ways to up their damage. You have some ways to add saves to them, and you have some good one good battalion to put them into that will make them a lot more killy. So, all right, what's your list look like for Carnosaurs? Are you playing with them? Are you putting them in Thunder Lizards? Are you putting them in Kotal's Claw? I'm guessing you're putting them in the Sunclaw Star Host, Sunclaw Temple Host. So let me know what your lists look like. All right, how's the Carnosaur been doing for you, or are you still building yours right now? All right, have a good one, guys.